Look how beautiful Chile is. Today, Chile is a modern powerhouse of South America. When walking through areas like Las Condes, we can see just how economically prosperous they are here. However, it wasn't always like this.
So what happened exactly?
Well, let me tell you.
Follow me on our journey back in time to Chile in the 1500s. When the Spanish first arrived in modern-day Chile, they found rough terrain with no permanent cities, little gold or silver, and a resilient indigenous population that would prove difficult to conquer. Compared to her northern neighbors Peru and Bolivia, Chile would never have such a large population and rich natural resources until later. The old borders of the three nations were not the same as today. Peru and Bolivia's borders extended further south, Chile was about a third smaller, and, importantly, Bolivia had access to the Pacific Ocean. Chile's northern border at the time was just south of Antofagasta, which was then held by Bolivia. Iquique belonged to Peru, whose territory stretched down to the Rio Loa. Towards the mid to late 19th century, the Chilean mining companies had been extracting large amounts of nitrates from rich deposits in the Atacama Desert in territory at the time belonged to Bolivia. In 1879, Bolivia raised tariffs on nitrates being mined in its territory in an attempt to gain from the profitable business. In response, Chile sent an army to Antofagasta. Bolivia and her ally Peru immediately declared war. The Pacific War had begun.
Wow, that was really interesting. Can you guys tell me more about this area?
Yes, I can.
The 120,000 square kilometers of Chilean land lies in the northern part of the country named the Atacama region. The primary feature of this area is the Atacama Desert, the driest in the world. The terrain is mountainous and hosts normal desert features. However, the region maintains diversity through a rich variety of flora and fauna, lagoons, and even salt flats that attract a unique wildlife presence. You can still see original buildings and lands from Peru and Bolivia, making the Atacama region a unique natural and historical area. This church was built under Bolivian control, and you can see terraces from when the Peruvian-based Incas occupied the land. While rich in beauty, the region was also rich in nitrates and copper that changed Chile's future.
So, what was the final outcome of the Pacific War?
Well, it played a significant role in South American history. Even today, we can still see the lasting effects. The war had initially started between Chile and Bolivia, but by the end of it, the heaviest human and financial burden landed on Peru, though both Bolivia and Peru paid a steep price in terms of land loss to Chile. The Treaty of Asunción was signed on October 23, 1883. This allowed for Chile to take over the Peruvian city of Tarapacá and for Chile to advance with 10 years of administration and occupation of the cities of Arica and Tacna. Bolivia and Chile signed a truce in 1884. The truce called for Chile to take control of Antofagasta. In turn, free access to the now Chilean-controlled port of Arica was granted to Bolivia. Chile and Bolivia did not sign a formal peace treaty until 20 years later in 1904. The economic consequences were massive for all involved parties. The Atacama region is rich in nitrates that provided an economic boom up to the 1920s, and the copper mining to this day is vital to government revenue. The newly gained land increased Chile's size by about a third, causing Bolivia to become landlocked and Peru to lose its southern lands.
Wow, that was really fascinating. I never realized how significant this was.
Yeah, but 130 years later, where are we?
Even though the war ended over 130 years ago, the repercussions are still felt to this day. For many Bolivians, the issue is still a sore topic. Less than 2 months ago, the International Court of Justice determined that Chile had no obligation to negotiate the return of territory to Bolivia. This made Bolivians sad and upset, and shows the uphill battle they face in order to regain access to the sea. Off the streets, the debate still rages on many corners of the internet. For example, the youth describe their sentiments via memes. While these memes may appear to depict a cheap joke aimed at Bolivia, they highlight the current mindsets that Bolivia is unlikely to ever reach the ocean.
President Piñera has accused Bolivian President Evo Morales of generating false expectations and frustrations on his own people. Despite the current situation, Chile has allowed Bolivian merchandise to flow freely through the Atacama region without any restrictions. The current President Piñera has said that Chile is willing to negotiate, but Evo Morales continuously declines talks with Piñera and has pursued other international options.
Chile no está dispuesto a cortar o dividir su territorio.
¡La patria! ¡Vencer o morir! ¡Viva Bolivia! ¡Viva Bolivia!
For Morales and the Bolivian people, this issue is still a hot and ongoing topic. Here we see a reenactment of the war, hosted by Bolivia to commemorate the defeat. With tension still present, the future of this ordeal is yet to be known.
Ultimately,
At the end of the day, what it really boils down to, this was a really significant time in the history of Chile.
we're glad you learned something today.
Thank you for watching.